Madam Deputy Speaker, 51 years ago, on the 21st of November 1974, 2 bombs exploded in the heart of Birmingham at the Mulberry Bush and the Tavern in the Town. 21 lives were lost. 220 people were injured. Families were destroyed, futures were stolen, and scars were left that have never healed. In those 2 pubs, the Provisional IRA murdered 21 souls. James Caddick, John Jones, Stanley Bodden, John Rowlands, Charles Gray, Jimmy Craig, Trevor Thrupp, Michael Beasley, Thomas Chater, Marilyn Nash, Stephen Wally, Eugene Riley, Desmond Riley, Maureen Roberts, Pamela Palmer, Anne Hayes, Maxine Hambleton, Lynn Bennett, Jane Davis, Paul Antony Davis, Neil Tommy Marsh. All lost their lives. They were sons, daughters, parents, brothers, sisters, innocent people, murdered in cold blood in Britain's deadliest acts of terrorism before 7/7, and which today is still the largest, worst, unsolved mass murder in our nation's history. And to this day, Madam Deputy Speaker, not one person, not one, has been brought to justice for this atrocity. And that is why, Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise today to call for a statutory judge-led public inquiry into the Birmingham Pub Bombings under Section 1 of the Inquiries Act 2005. We all know what happened that night. We know that the bombs were planted by members of the Provisional IRA. We know that a warning was phoned in. We know it came too late, that it was chaotic, that it was inadequate, that it was fatal. We know that the Birmingham six members of the Irish community in Birmingham were arrested, tortured, and convicted of a crime that they did not commit. They spent 16 years in prison before the Court of Appeal quashed their convictions in 1991. We know that the relatives of the victims were left to grieve in silence and were lied to by the police and by politicians alike. And for decades they were shut out of justice, ignored, patronised, disbelieved. We know that in 2019 a jury at the resumed inquest concluded that the 21 victims were unlawfully murdered and that the IRA was responsible. And yet the jury was not allowed to consider who precisely carried out the bombing. That question of who bombed Birmingham, who murdered the 21, who committed the largest unresolved murder on these islands, the question was ruled out of scope. And so today, the truth remains buried. Madam Deputy Speaker, this is a wound that has never really healed. Since 2012, the families of those who died have fought with extraordinary courage and dignity in the search for truth and in the quest for justice. They have knocked on every door, they have sat with ministers, they have won legal battles, they have crowd-funded representation, they have taken their case to Westminster, to Brussels, to Dublin, to Belfast. They have formed the group, Justice for the 21, led by Julie and Brian Hampton, whose sister was killed that night. And together they have done what so many others failed to do. They had the courage and the will to keep the flame of truth alive. That time after time after time the families found every turn they were met with barriers, with bureaucracy and with broken promises. They were told that they could not get legal aid. They were told that their case was not part of the reconciliation or the legacy of the Troubles. They were told to wait until West Midlands Police had pursued leads that led precisely nowhere. They were told again and again to be quiet, but they would not be quiet, and they will not be quiet, and this House should not sit quiet while their search for justice is unfinished. This campaign is not about vengeance. This campaign is about one thing alone. It is about the truth and justice. It is about the right to truth, the right to accountability, the right to know that our system of law and order, our democracy, works for all and not just for the powerful. And so we have to ask in this House, why, after all of this time, after 51 years, why has there not been a public inquiry? So let us now be clear. I will give way in a moment. This cannot be a desktop review. This cannot merely be an independent panel. It must be a judge-led statutory public inquiry with the full power to summon evidence, to compel witnesses, to hold institutions to account. Why? Because this family, these grieving families, have been failed time and time and time again. And after 51 years, it's enough. Because since the exoneration of the Birmingham Six, those men who were tortured and framed and imprisoned, since their exoneration, no one has been held to account for this failure. Since 1991, no new suspects have been brought to trial. Since 2019, even though witnesses admitted they knew who was responsible, no one has been compelled to testify. And while the coroner accepted the government legal department assurances that relevant documents have been disclosed, widespread doubts remain that the information held in the Home Office or the Foreign Office or the Ministry of Defence was in fact made available. We know that there are documents that weren't provided to the inquest. We know that key individuals involved have died, but we also know that there are allegations that at least 2 of those responsible are still alive and living free, and their names can be found in books which are in the House of Commons library. And as my honourable friend from Northfield said, as the years pass, memories fade, witnesses die, and the trail of truth will grow cold. And that is why it is time to act now. Let's look at the facts. This is the largest unresolved mass murder in British history. No statutory inquiry has ever been launched into what happened. No one from the state has ever been held accountable for the failings of the investigation, or the imprisonment of the innocent, or the denial of justice to the families. And by contrast, we in this House, at the urging of this House, we have ensured that for victims of Hillsborough, of infected blood, of Grenfell, of Windrush, the Post Office, we ensured quite rightly that we got to the bottom of what happened, what caused the pain of so many of those victims. But why not Birmingham? Why are the people of Birmingham not being given the justice that they deserve? Madam Deputy Speaker, I think it is time that we send a message from this House that there can be no more excuses. A public inquiry is not just a legal tool. It's a national act of conscience. It's how democracy apologises with honesty. It's how we tell the victims and their families that you matter, your loss matters, your loved ones will not be forgotten. And crucially, it's how we learn. Because if we can't learn those lessons from the past, the risk is, of course, that we repeat those. We have said often in this House that justice delayed is justice denied. It's been 51 years since that terrible night. 51 years of injustice. 51 years of doors closed and backs turned. Madam Deputy Speaker, I say that is long enough. So I want to be very clear with the House tonight about what it is that we are seeking. We are seeking a statutory public inquiry under Section 1 of the Inquiries Act 2005. We are seeking a judge-led process with full legal powers to compel witnesses and evidence. An inquiry that is independent, that is resourced to ensure effective participation of the families. An inquiry that asks openly, without constraint, without fear, without favour, who was it that bombed Birmingham? An inquiry that examines the role of the police, the criminal justice system and the state, and then and since. We have to be clear, Madam Deputy Speaker, that this crime is not covered by the legislation and the agreements that secured peace in Northern Ireland. And that means something important. It means the Home Secretary has the power right now to order this inquiry. There is no legal obstacle. The only question is whether there is the political will. Now, in April 2024, there were 8 Birmingham MPs who wrote to the Home Secretary to demand this inquiry. November 2024, on the 50th anniversary, Justice for the 21 renewed their call, and that call was backed by a cross-party group of MPs and mayors and lawyers and campaigners. I wrote again to the Home Secretary in spring this year. I have not yet had an answer about a decision on whether an inquiry will be launched, and that is why I have asked for this debate tonight. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for equal treatment, for Birmingham to be given the justice that has been offered to the victims of so many scandals, where we have set up inquiries to get to the bottom of the truth. Right, this is about the past, it is about truth, it is about justice, but she is right to say it is also about the future. This is about whether we in this House believe in justice without exception, justice without delay, justice that does not stop at the doors of power. And it is whether the government of this country will look the people of Birmingham in the eye and say, we hear you, we see you, we believe you, and we will not rest until you get the answers that you deserve. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, let us honour the memory of those 21 souls who never came home. Never came home that night. Let us stand with their families. Let us speak for a city that is still scarred by this silence. And let us at long last do what we should have done decades ago. Let's hold a public inquiry into the Birmingham Pub Bombings.